Hello students, let's start with our session of history. You all know that we are learning chapter number 2 of history, and now we are going to deal with the second part of the lesson. Let's quickly recall what we learned in the first part. In the first part, we learnt about the various ruling powers before the times of Shivaji Maharaj. We learnt about invasions from the northwest, invasions of Arabs, invasions of Turks, Afghans. We learnt about the new kingdoms of Vijayanagar and Bahmani in our previous video. Now let's begin with the second part. Are you ready? Let's start. In this part, first I am going to inform you about Mahmud Gawan. He was the chief wazir of the Bahmani kingdom. He was a good administrator. He strengthened the Bahmani kingdom. He started paying the soldiers their salaries in cash instead of through land grants. Previously, soldiers were granted with lands and that revenue used to be their income source. But now he started paying them salaries. He also introduced many reforms in land revenue system. He started the madrasas at Bidar for Arabic and Persian studies. Madrasas are the schools where the languages of Arabic and Persian were taught to the students along with the holy book of Quran. So Muhammad Gawan started madrasas. In 1526 CE, the Sultanate of Delhi came to an end and Mughal power was established there. Now, who was the founder of Mughal power in India? He was Babur. He had heard of the wealth of India and so he planned an invasion, an attack on India. The reigning Sultan of Delhi at that time was Ibrahim Lodi. Daulat Khan Lodi was the governor of Punjab under the Sultanate. The relationship between Ibrahim Lodi and Daulat Khan Lodi was strained. It means they had clashes. So Daulat Khan Lodi invited Babur to march on India. And taking this opportunity, Babur invaded India. To fight against Babur's invasion, Ibrahim Lodi started with his army. There was a battle between Ibrahim Lodi and Babur on 21st April 1526 at Panipat. In this battle, Babur made use of an artillery very effectively for the first time in India and he defeated Ibrahim Lodi's army. This is known as the First Battle of Panipat. Let me show you a small video clip about this battle. Here we go. The First Battle of Panipat fought on 21st April 1526. Who fought this battle? It was fought between Babur and the Lodi kingdom. This battle marked the beginning of the Mughal Empire. And obviously it marked the end of Delhi Sultanate also. Gunpowder and firearms were introduced and used by Mughals for the first time, which Ibrahim Lodi could not fight against. Two tactics were introduced by Babur in this battle. The first is Tulguma. What does it mean? It means dividing the unit into left, right and center. And the other was Araba. Araba mean to provide center division with cards, that is Arabs. And what was the effect of the battle? What was the outcome? We all know that Ibrahim Lodi was died. It is said that the Battle of Panipat was militarily a decisive victory. This battle initiated new phase of establishment of Mughal power in India. This is how Babur started with the Mughal Empire in India. His son Humayun after Babur ruled over here, and then Humayun's son Akbar was the most powerful Mughal empire in India. When Akbar tried to bring India under his central authority, he had to face opposition. Maharana Pratap, Chand Bibi, Rani Durgavati, they all struggled against him. Their struggle is very noteworthy. Now let's collect information about their struggle. After the death of Uday Singh, Maharana Pratap became the king of Mewad. He continued the struggle for Mewad's existence. Till the very end, he struggled with Akbar to maintain his independence. He has become immortal in history due to his qualities of valor, courage, and self-respect. Valor means bravery. He was known for his sacrifice also. Chand Bibi. The Mughals attacked Ahmednagar, the capital of Nizam Shah's kingdom, in 1595 CE. The Mughal army put the fort of Ahmednagar under siege. Chand Bibi, the capable daughter of Hussain Nizam Shah of Ahmednagar, bravely defended the fort. At this time, there was an internal strife among the factions of the Sardars in Nizam Shahi's kingdom. This resulted in the murder of Chand Bibi. Later, the Mughals captured the fort of Ahmednagar, but the Mughals could not bring the entire kingdom of Nizam Shahi under their control. Dear students, some of the Sardars simply opposed Chand Bibi's rule just because she was a woman. They had factions, it means they had differences of opinion. But still, Chand Bibi fought very courageously and bravely for the independence of her land. Now let me tell you the struggle of Rani Durgavati. Gondwana can broadly be said to comprise the eastern part of Vidarbha, part of Madhya Pradesh to its north, the western part of today's Chhattisgarh, northern part of Andhra Pradesh, and the western part of Odisha. Durgavati, born in the dynasty of Chandel Rajput, became the queen of Gondwana when she was married. She was an excellent administrator. The struggle of Gondwana, Queen Durgavati, against the Mughals is important in medieval history. After her husband's death, Durgavati laid down her life while fighting against Akbar, but she did not surrender. After Akbar, Aurangzeb was the remarkable emperor of Mughal power. He became the emperor in 1658 CE. At this time, the Mughal Empire extended from Kashmir in the north up to Ahmednagar in the south, and from Kabul in the west up to Bengal in the east. To this, Aurangzeb added Assam in the east, and he also added the regions of Adil Shahi of Bijapur in the south and Qutub Shahi of Golconda after he ended these kingdoms. This is how Aurangzeb almost captured all territories of India. Along with Maharana Pratap, Chand Bibi and Rani Durgavati, Mughals also had to face the Ahoms. They had conflicts with Ahoms. In the 13th century CE, the people of Shan community settled down in the valley of river Brahmaputra. They established their kingdom there. They were locally known as Ahom people. While Aurangzeb ruled, these Ahoms had a prolonged struggle with the Mughals. The Mughals attacked the Ahoms region. Ahoms united under the leadership of Gadadhar Singh. The Ahoms used the guerrilla technique in the conflict against Mughals. Guerrilla tactics. It means hiding yourself at a place where enemy would not be able to see you and then attacking the enemy from that place where it was not expected from the enemy. This is how the Ahoms fought against Mughals. The same guerrilla technique or guerrilla tactic was used by Shivaji Maharaj also when he conquered many more forts. Dear students, Mughals also had conflicts with Sikh community. Guru Tegh Bahadur, he was the ninth Guru of Sikhs. He protested very strongly against Aurangzeb's policy of religious intolerance. Religious intolerance means there was not treatment of equality given to all religions. So, Guru Tegh Bahadur protested, stood against it. Aurangzeb put him to jail and later he was beheaded in 1675 CE. It means he was given death punishment. After Guru Tegh Bahadur, Guru Gobind Singh organized his followers and encouraged their martial spirit. He organized the Sikh youths into a fighting force called the Khalsa Dal. Their headquarters were at Anandpur. Aurangzeb sent his army to fight the Sikhs. His army attacked Anandpur. Although the Sikhs fought fiercely, very bravely, they did not succeed. After that, Guru Gobind Singh came to the Deccan in 1708 CE. There was an attempt on his life when he was at Nanded. Soon after, the Guru succumbed to his wounds. It means he could not survive. He passed away. Now let's see what conflicts Mughals had with Rajputs. Akbar had secured the cooperation of Rajputs with his policy of amicable relations. Amicable relations means they negotiated with each other for certain rules and regulations and therefore they agreed to cooperate with each other for certain factors. However, after Akbar, Aurangzeb could not obtain the cooperation of Rajputs. After the death of Rana Jaswant Singh of Marwad, Aurangzeb annexed his kingdom to the Mughal Empire, added his kingdom to the Mughal Empire. So after that, Durgadas Rathod, he fought very hard against Mughals. What he did? He crowned Jaswant Singh's minor son. Minor means small at age. He was not an adult one. His name was Ajit Singh. So he crowned Ajit Singh as the king of Marwad. Aurangzeb sent Prince Akbar to Marwad to crush the resistance of Durgadas. Prince Akbar joined hands with Rajputs and rose in revolt against Aurangzeb. An effort was made to seek help from the Marathas in Maharashtra. In this revolt, Durgadas Rathod continued his struggle against the Mughals for the existence of Marwad. Now within the Mughal Empire only we can see that how Akbar revolted against Aurangzeb, and this is how the clash between Aurangzeb and Akbar started taking place. Marathas had to face the Mughals. We all know that Shivaji Maharaj fought with Mughals along with the other enemies. in order to establish Swaraj. The struggle of Shivaji Maharaj for Swaraj with Mughals and the other enemies we will be learning in the next chapters. This is how here we conclude chapter number 2. Hope you understood the lesson. Let's quickly recall what we learned in this video. We learnt about the establishment of Mughal power by Babur, the first battle of Panipat. We learnt about Akbar as the most powerful king of Mughal dynasty. We tried to gather information about the noteworthy struggle of Maharana Pratap, Chand Bibi and Rani Durgavati. We learnt about Mughals' conflict with Ahom, Sikhs and Rajputs. Dear students, that's all for today's session. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.